Hi, my name is Lloyd Norman. I'm with Prosymmetry. Today, I'm going to be talking about how capacity planning creates scaled agile alignment. This is the second in a series of videos which I've been producing, which talk about the importance of resource capacity planning relative to effective scaled agile delivery. So let's dive in today and talk about alignment. Here's the challenge with aligning portfolios. Anytime that your work adjusts in a meaningful way, meaning adding new work or delaying in-flight work, you've got to look at how you're going to address that fundamentally from a resource availability and concurrency limit kind of an issue. Do I have enough people to do this work? But it's not just that. There's interrelated trade-off for all other LPM guardrails as well. The portfolio guardrails might include what's the impact to my CapEx and OpEx? How does this affect my strategic work mix? And didn't I, at the first of the year, make commitments to my governance organizations that I would, in fact, be delivering products over different planning horizons, a certain percentage that mitigates risks, some that generate revenue, some that promote operational excellence? What about my interdependencies? What am I going to push that's affecting in-flight work? All of these things have to be accounted for from an alignment perspective. So how do you do that? And where does resource planning come in? Everybody knows, or should know, that when you're executing a portfolio of work, whether it's a hybrid portfolio that has waterfall and agile work, or strictly agile work in a scaled agile environment, when you get inside the program increment boundary, or within 90 days, again, if you're talking about projects, you should have fixed forecasts. You should know which resources by name, whether those resources are organized into teams or not, are going to be helping you deliver your strategy. It's in here where you're actually doing task management. If you're doing things in an agile way, you're probably doing that, that type of work decomposition in a JIRA or ADO kind of a tool. If it's a project that may be getting support from agile teams, you're likely doing that in a PPM kind of a tool like Microsoft Project. But either way, the fact that you have to do upstream planning is critical to allowing you to have capacity reserved to do the kind of work that you need to do here anyway. I would remind viewers that responding to change or following a plan does not mean not having a plan. What it means is you have a plan that is fluid and flexible. Nothing is ever committed until the PI boundary here, certainly from an agile perspective. But you need to be moving the big rocks out of the way. You need to be making sure that teams at a program level are aligned with portfolio, project, and epic execution. And you need to be doing that with enough lead time and in a way that your executives and business leaders can actually execute strategy without interruption. All right, so what does that look like in person? First, let me tie this back to some of the fundamentals of Scaled Agile. I'm doing that by going out to the scaledagile.com site and saying it does in fact start, even in their opinion, with resource planning. There's over 24, actually dozens and dozens, over 24 that I found in the last hour, references to resource capacity planning out on scaledagileFramework.com. This one I think is particularly relevant because it talks about the need to distribute work amongst arts at a feature level. This is entirely consistent with other comments out on scaledagileFramework.com that talk about the need to break up our portfolio epics down to a feature level, size them by the skills on the arts that are needed to deliver them. And I would submit to you that if you're really going to make this work, you're likely going to have to be taking it a level deeper than that as well. Most arts that we work with are not cross-functional. Some are. If they are, you're welcome to plan by art and you'll be effective in doing so. But even then, you've got to look at shared services, which may or may not be delivering through an agile methodology whatsoever. Specifically, organizations like specific IT shared services like data analytics, which may have specialty roles, compliance, audit, regulatory, legal. If you are not planning these named people along with your team side by side, and if your automation does not allow you to plan teams of different velocities across different value streams and arts, side by side, with named resources and roles, you should probably be looking at what kind of automation you're using. Obviously, it's work top down that needs to be decomposed down to a program level into teams that actually gets things done. From a portfolio planning perspective, we feel that it's vital that portfolio planning happens here, but honoring the notion of decentralized decision-making by not getting in the way of the work decomposition that happens at a detailed task level inside the JIRA, ADO, and PPM tool of choice that people may be using to actually do task management for execution planning. It's also vital that we understand that alignment is not confinement. Just because we're aligning our portfolio work doesn't mean that we have to be inefficient in what we're doing with work that falls underneath the threshold of portfolio governance. We need to make sure that resource capacity is set aside for production support work on a team-by-team basis, because it can vary dramatically, team-by-team basis, even within the same art. But let's honor that and then coordinate where we need to coordinate. So let's talk about some real-world examples. If I'm a release train engineer, wouldn't it be nice to look across my portfolio of work and say, where are my teams allocated? Who's obviously over-allocated? I can see that the shipping team here working on these 3 initiatives are actually 155% allocated. Well, that's not going to work for me. Why is that? So let's go in and take a look at that. Any release train engineer should continuously be able to see this, especially as they get ready for pre-PI planning. If I'm a product manager, for example, if I'm looking at work that's in the backlog state, I'd like to know, what kind of work type is that? Is it an enabler? Is it an initiative? Is it an operational enhancement? Let's assume that we're going to go in and look at enablers here. All right, well, what about the hypersonics project? Well, yikes, okay. So we're planning to start that in June. I've got the people that I need here. I don't see, okay, a portfolio epic owner. Okay, I've got one of them already, but why? Why all this red out here? Am I not aligned? Are these people over allocated? Do they have commitments? They're not over allocated on my effort. Nobody's over 100% here, but clearly their overall allocation is red. So they must be reserved at a rate over 100%. Let's go fix those issues. The same, for example, if you're a portfolio manager, if you are looking at tying your projects back to strategic business themes, you should know which organizations are supporting your work down to a person level and what are they costing, especially if you're doing portfolio budgeting and you're looking at proportional cost distribution over multiple epics and projects, possibly if you're in a hybrid environment. So this kind of transparency is absolutely essential. It's what I talked about in the previous video. Next week, I'll be talking about program execution and how resource capacity planning actually is fundamental to successful program execution in an agile environment. But let's keep with this theme for a minute. Wouldn't it be nice, beyond having that transparency and the easy ability through an Excel-like interface to be updating allocations and sizing information, wouldn't it be fantastic if you could see in real time, in a virtual environment, a digital twin, how I might tweak my future portfolio delivery to mitigate delivery risks? So I can see already here that my manufacturing art is over-allocated. And it's particularly bad for the inventory team. So what's driving that over-allocation? Well, there's quite a few efforts here, which makes me think that I've probably got a WIP limit issue to begin with. So let's take a look at what happens if we take Barcelona 13 and actually slide that out. Well, we can see that it immediately, in real time, allows us to see what's happening not only just on the manufacturing inventory team as that gets better, but you can see the deltas across all teams and roles that are affected. And this is really the power of dynamic modeling in a resource planning perspective. It allows portfolio planners, anyone can come in here and make a model if you're authorized to do so. So product managers can come in here and experiment with, what would it take for me to introduce a new product? What might need to move? How will this affect my production support operations? Those sorts of things. You can come in here on a feature by feature basis and say, hey, what if I just move one feature, or lock one feature, or crash, this particular feature? You can see the specific teams both before and after. Obviously, crashing work is going to make these go up dramatically. You can, in fact, come in and say, well, I don't really want to push this work. I'm kind of interested actually in what might happen if I'm able to fatten my team. What if I add one or two more people, to this work? It'll drop my my allocation from 85% down to 68%. So if you've got enough lead time to bring in contingent labor, contract workers, if you will, you should be exploring that opportunity. What happens if I take a project like this and exclude it? What happens if I take a whole body of work, all low priority work, and exclude it? You have the option to do that as well. And then come back here and say, where can I slot this work in? Show me where I have an opportunity. It says here I can't start this until April, but what happens, if I only need half of my resources, right? Then, do I have the chance to push that up any sooner? Let's grab another project here, this assets design database. Let's go see when we might be able to start that. And if we have less than 100% of our resources, we can likely start it even sooner, knowing that we're going to be short a little bit on our manufacturing validation team. So these kind of tools allow planners to do real-time planning, to accelerate portfolio flow, mitigate delivery risk, mitigate retention risks before they occur. So if you'd like to continue this discussion, I would encourage you to reach out to us at prosymmetry.com. We'd be very happy to hear from you. I'm also going to be producing additional videos. The next one will be about program execution and how capacity planning creates actually program execution excellence. So please join me then. We do free trials, so we'd be happy to talk to you about 30-day, 60-day trials, if that's something that you'd like. But let's pursue this conversation, because the ability to actually plan future work in a way that allows you to maximize the value delivered while mitigating risks and in particular delivery and retention risks really defines business agility. Thanks for joining me today.